Abby Lynn it's right here. She's an energy reader, soul psychic, galactic channel. If you were in here for the meditation, wow. I've known you for years now. I've never heard that come out of your mouth. It was beautiful. Uh, um, no, it's been beautiful to watch you blossom because I remember you were shy about doing it at first, and understandably, it takes a lot to get up there and do that. So, thank you, and I can't wait to see what you have in store for us today. So, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, the singing thing. That's just part of my continued journey. And as we open up and find more aspects of ourselves, it's really just surrendering into that and releasing and letting go and loving yourself and just trusting that what comes out is meant to be. So, this is my little clicker because I'm a hand talker. And so then I don't Sherry will fall. Yeah, so I have the talking stick today, and you're gonna enjoy this one-sided conversation. Everything that I'm gonna share today, I'm not sharing anything for you to believe me. I'm simply sharing to let you know this is a possibility and that these beings do exist. They are real, um, and you can have access to them, and it's a pretty magical place that we live when you begin to go outside of the veil. But I kind of want to talk about the past year really quick before I get into this. Um, it's been pretty intense with energy coming in. The body, it's been a lot of work and hard work on the body. The brain pressure over a year ago. I was doing, I was feeling it too, but I was doing, often some of this comes through when I'm doing a session on somebody. And I was, in the crown working within the brain because before you get in with energy, you gotta balance it out. And these crystalline beings came in, and they said, "We need to make more room within the gray matter of the brain." And they said, "That's why everyone's been feeling so much pressure, that cranium pressure lately." And I'm like, "Why are we making more room within the gray matter of the brain?" They said, "Because so much more energy is coming in." And so we as light beings, we're working with everybody here to help make some more room in there so that they can hold that. So essentially the brain doesn't get fried out with that. And Barry talked a little bit about the sun. I remote viewed the sun a couple times, and I absolutely do believe it's a portal. It's not hot at all. And it's come through so clearly. It's a record keeper. It keeps and holds so much memory in through that portal. And I was actually connecting this morning into that, knowing like, okay, the sun's a record keeper. What's been going on so much the past year rapidly are all these solar flares. The body's feeling all of those. We feel really exhausted, achy joints, achy everything. But if we're getting energy blasted from the sun and the sun's a record keeper, what's the possibility that with those solar flares, we're bringing in more memory of ourselves? We're bringing in more those photonic light is opening up the light within us. And that could be part of the reason why we're feeling all those physical pains when those solar flares are coming through. So just a theory. Again, I'm not saying anything to believe me, just a theory. And that's really kind of what all of us are here doing together. We have these little bits and these little pieces, and we come and we gather and we try to see how they fit, and we're trying to make sense because there is a veil over this, and that veil has gotten a lot thinner, but it absolutely is there. So that's why it's so important that we all gather and we share. Um, I think a lot of times why we gather too is because we just feel this aloneness, the sense of aloneness inside. I've had that since I was a child, and it didn't make any sense because I was surrounded by people that loved me. I had an amazing childhood, friends, but I always felt alone, alone with my thoughts, alone with things that I knew I couldn't share with others because it would never make any sense. So just being alone inside. And one of the Arcturians came through and they said aloneness is one of the cruelest illusions of this dimension. And they said it's something we each had to work through and overcome as individual species through each of our evolutions. We've had windows of being and feeling alone, but the soul knows its connection. And a galactic male, he just has always said, "You can just call me E." He said, "You saw this outcome before you came, or you wouldn't have come. Understand that we see this as a team effort. We have not left you with this big task without help. You are never, nor have you ever been alone." Um, I think that's one of the things that I'm gonna just, like, harp on and harp on until the day I transition to the next lifetime. While we're here, I cannot emphasize enough, absolutely none of you are alone. You are surrounded by so many realms, by so many family members, your guides. I've had a couple times where I have absolutely just broken down in tears after I've had sessions or been with people, because it's not fair, is how I feel. It's not fair that I am able to see this and understand this, and so many people are struggling with it. Like, why can't they see this? And it's frustrating for me, because not only do I see things, but I feel them first. They come in through their emotion first. And it has absolutely dropped me to the ground multiple times. So if anything you get out of anything I say today, please know that every step you take is absolutely surrounded by beings and things that love you and support you and only want the best for you. But Tyler wanted me to talk about the galactic perspective today. So I figured it's best for you guys to hear from them. But to go down a little bit on my journey, a lot of people are like, why do you get to see them? How do you have this access? And I've been an experiencer my entire life. I don't like the word abductee, because it feels like it's something happening to me that I don't have control over. And I know well enough that my soul absolutely contracted for everything that happened to me. So at the age of 3 is the first time of conscious memory coming through, and I used to talk to my parents in the morning over breakfast to clearly remember it. And I, I called him my boyfriend. I really did. I said, my boyfriend came and got me last night, and he took me on a date. Is how I described it. And so in my 30s, I got more memory. I understand why I said that as a 3-year-old. But I clearly remembered we would just go up, and it was always learning. I was always being taught, and they always said over and over again, you need to remember who you are. You need to remember who you are. And I remember sitting and just seeing screens, and they would show me, this planet, and they would break it down piece by piece. And it was always like, these are the materials that we get from this planet. This is what exists on this planet. And then they're like, okay, next planet. And this is what I did all the time when I was a child. So because of that, and it was always very positive, for a couple years, I actually was excited to go to sleep every single night. I couldn't wait, because that was my connection. But then somewhere around the age of 6, it started to get a little funky. And I was terrified to go to sleep. My worst nightmare was I was the last one to fall asleep in my home. I never wanted to be the last one. Understanding that it's not normal to fall asleep each night because you're hyperventilating, because you're underneath all the covers and you're terrified of one little ounce of skin being left out, because you can literally just feel being yanked out from it. Always being a stomach sleeper, because I always felt this strong desire I had to protect my organs. Even as an adult, I can't fall asleep on my back. I can't do it. I have to be completely covered and feel weight on me, because I feel vulnerable and I feel exposed. So, I finally did reach out to Mary Rodwell, trying to look at those, because I couldn't make sense why I had such good memories of going to school and being taught, and these are my family and I can see them clearly. And then all of a sudden I started having some nightmares. And so I actually, they started at 6, but I actually started getting taken at 4. I was really surprised by that. And the memory that came back was, I don't even know how I got outside. I was standing outside, and that was when I realized I was out there. I was holding a stuffed animal in my little fuzzy jammies, and I started to become like, why am I out here? It's dark. And when I turned to yell for my mom, because I saw their bedroom window, it was whoo. And I now know what it feels like to be burst into about 1 billion little pieces of material. Because I wasn't sucked up. I was literally it turned into matter. And my next phase was I was sitting in a room and it was all dark and I was just sitting there with my stuffed animal, but I had no fear. They had removed all of that. I had absolutely no fear. Jump to I'm on a table and I'm being moved. I can't move my body. I know that, but I could move my eyes. Um, and this all I could see was the arm because all I could do was move my eye to the side and I just saw this arm like pushing this table that I was on. And he had brown skin, very, very skinny. There was no bone structure to it, but had a little bit of a glistening to it. And he just kept saying over and over again, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And what was interesting was he said they should be with their mothers. And it was interesting because he didn't say you should be with your mother. He said they should be with their mother. And I instantly knew that I was one of many children that was being picked up. And, but I felt nothing but love from him. And so I started to talk to him and I actually asked him, I said, why can I hear you in my head? And he said, that's exactly why you're here. And so the next moment was looking down at my feet. Then I did see a human and he was in military gear. And that was when I became terrified, absolutely terrified. And then in my little 4-year-old mind, I couldn't understand why I was feeling nothing but love from the being behind me and absolutely terrified of the human that looked like everything that I had seen in my life. And I knew that there was nothing but cold and hatred inside of his soul. And I could hear his thoughts completely. When I saw him in my session, I went into a full-blown seizure. Um, so through that, I I jumped forward a little bit, and I know that I was used. And I felt like they would come and get me and come and get me, so it wasn't a continuous thing. But they used me just to psychically read other beings, because they would have me look in their eyes, and I could see completely into their soul, not just them now, but I could see all the lifetimes they'd had before. Um, and based on what I came out of my mouth. And even as a 6-year-old, I understood what comes out of my mouth determines whether this being lives or dies, and having that much weight on my shoulders. So I do believe that that's one of the reasons why I'm able to do what I do now, is because I used to do it when I was a toddler. I have absolutely zero trauma from it. I wish to not look into it at all any further, and I've released it, and I have complete forgiveness for what happened to me. Because it did bring me to where I'm at today. I've went into journalism and a TV producer. I thought it was interesting. Last year at the Secret Space program, the majority of all the females that were speakers, they all chose journalism as their degree. Um, I know that's why I chose journalism. Was I was trying to make sense of what happened when I was a kid and all the things that I knew. And and I said, even though I was terrified, I still loved it. When I was in 6th grade, my school report was the world's greatest mystery, and it was UFOs and Loch Ness Monster and the Bermuda Triangle, because I was trying to understand energy and portals. And there's a single person that I grew up and went to school with that is surprised that I'm here talking about this right now today, because I never shut up about it when I was a kid. And I actually never allowed anyone to not believe in this when I was a kid too. If they would say they're not real, I would just like, well, you're a special kind of ignorant, aren't you? But I went into journalism because in my mind, from a teenager, well, if I'm a journalist, I'm going to have a press pass. And press passes, I'm able to interview different people and I can get to the bottom of this, because I'm not afraid to ask hard questions. I'm not afraid to go into places. And it was either I was going to either join the media or the CIA or the FBI, because I wanted to get to the bottom and I wanted truth to come through. And I absolutely know one of my mission is to be a bridge, and which is to bring the truth of them down here. So I was looking at any type of venue that I could. But I ended up in the mainstream media, that 24-hour toxic wheel, and I lasted less than 2 years, and I saw it for the mockingbird that it was, and my soul was just dying in there, so I had to leave. Then I jumped to being a mother of 3 kids. And I know I kind of jumped from being 6 to being a mother really quick. My college years, I had a lot of missing time when I was in college. That's all I remember, is just a lot of missing time. But me becoming a mother, I was in contact with my guides, and I had shadow figures my whole life, following me. I always felt the ships above me all the time when I was a kid. Sometimes it actually would give me a small little panic attack because I knew I am always being followed. I am always being followed. You can just feel it right in the back of you. I had been saved actually a couple times of literally invisible force. I was doing something stupid with my friends. I could have really hurt myself. And I was literally picked up in the middle of the air and I was brought back down on the ground before I got hurt. I've had things when I was 16 years old come in and actually take over the wheel of my car and make me go different directions so I would avoid a wreck. Not good because you can get a little cocky. Because when I was in my college, if I got bored driving, I would absolutely race my car. And you can get anyone to race you on a highway. The fastest I ever went was 115 in a Volkswagen. But I knew I'm protected. They've always been there. I've always felt them. So, all right, jumping back to being a mother of three, my kids absolutely were my awakening because I had always had the shadow figures and the ghosts. Like I always lived in a haunted house, and then I had my Galactics, and I didn't know how any of that made sense. There was like this compartment and then this compartment. But when I had my children, they were my coming home, 100%. When my oldest was 2.5 years old, she was sitting at the breakfast table eating cereal, and she just looked over me and she said, "Thank you for my special eyes, Mommy." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And I knew she was already medium. She was seeing spirits, and it was a grand time in my house. And she looked at me and she said, "God and I chose you to be my mother because you would understand my special eyes." And then she went back to eating breakfast, and then she turned to me and she said, "I'm going to bring heaven to earth in this life." So she is my rainbow child. Um, and it's just been a great experience. I will tell you one funny story. She actually told me this a year ago. When she was 5 years old, she couldn't sleep one night and she was laying there and she said all of a sudden she heard coming outside of her window. So she got up and she looked out and she saw this huge giant walking outside. And of course, she's 5. She knocks on her window to get his attention. And she said this giant, he bent all the way down and went down and he said, "Hello," to her. And then he stood back up and then she just continued to walk. But yes, we did a lot of sleepless nights. Every single light was on in my house all the time. So I had my first two together. They're pretty much Irish twins, and they would be having breakfast together, talking to themselves about. My son said, "Well, I pushed you into the wormhole first. That's why you were born first." And they would sit there and laugh about it because they were going to fight who was going to come down first. And I said, "What do you mean the wormhole?" And my son said, "Well, the hole full of wormholes, of little holes that swirl." And he said, "But by the time," now he was 2 years old when he told this to me. He said, "But by the time you get to that room, you're really, really tiny. And so someone has to carry you into that room, and they put you into that wormhole." And he said, each one of them, and this is what is, he does not know my maiden name. He's 2 years old. And he said, "We went to the one that said my husband's full name and then Abby Rouse. That's my name." He said, and it said Abby Rouse. And so for my 2-year-old to know what my last name was incredible. But they absolutely were my coming home. I had to take all of these worlds and become really, really serious because the experiences that they were having, I had to begin to, and Sherry touched on this, you have to really guard your house. A lot of beings don't like the lights that we bring here. And when I began to really awaken, they really didn't like that at all. I was heavily targeted. Every time I found a meetup group and we would meet and do these meditations, and that was when a lot of my memories were starting to come back. And every time I would drive to meet those, cars would cut me off and slam their brakes, trying to get me into a wreck. The absolute worst time was a car had cut me off and they had a mattress on the top of it. And the minute they cut me off, all of the ropes snapped on the mattress and it flew back at my car. And I had to swerve. And that was when I had absolutely had it. And in my car, I literally said, I will never stop finding out and getting my memories back. You will never stop me. And so that's when I really learned how to declare who you are. And when you declare who you are from your heart and you really stand in your knowingness, I don't really like saying stand in your power, but stand in your knowingness, they begin to leave you alone. But we just have to move past that fear, because really, when you are working and activating your light, they can't do anything to you. They will do everything to bring in fear. Shadow beings, again, like trying to hurt you, and reptilians coming into my house, and absolutely nothing stopped it. So I always joke reptilians are actually little weenies. When you really are pushing out from that love frequency, they can't exist within that. They just really can't. It hurts them. And when they see you, I mean, I've had a 7-foot tall reptilian like pumping up all of his muscles, charging down at me in my house, because I was ready to do. Are you guys ready for it? I organized a clearing with all my friends to clear out Epstein Island. That was the first time a reptilian came into my house. That's a whole other story, and I will say dragons came in and helped massively to help those children cross over. I had over 100 dragons show up and surround that island. I didn't even ask for them, they just showed up. And I began to see these souls of these little children coming up out of the water. Yes, they did throw a lot of those kids into the water. They came up out of the water and they climbed on the back of these dragons' backs, and the dragons took them into the light. Dragons are my favorite. So here's some words from them. The Galactic perspective. You are us and we are you, a splintered family spread about the cosmos. We have been watching as when you made the contract to leave our realm, density, dimension. We no longer had telepathic communication with you. You had to find us, not the other way around. That is our universal law. Now that you have found us, you can access us at any time. And so really, I just call it dimensional communication versus channeling. It's just telepathic conversation between two souls who have agreed upon an equal exchange of energy, opening up a portal of connected thought. Now, there was one point where I was doing so much telepathic conversation that I hated using this mouth. And I actually kind of became mute for a while. I was slurring my words, because then you realize how heavy and how slow this speech is. Telepathic communication, within seconds, you can have an entire message, but you understand the backing of that message, why they even came forward and why they're even giving this message. It's so layered and it's so fast. It's very efficient. This is very slow. This is, again, E came through. To understand one's mission is to understand one's purpose, to understand one's future. Time does not exist for us like it does for you. So we see all things in what is to be, but it is from a place where it has already happened. And so often they are able to come in and just remind us who we are and give us help. When I was really started to remember and they were coming through, and I have to say, the Galactics that came through, they're my family. They're my friends. Okay, so it's not like, oh, just some random being came through. It was very emotional, because I remember they're they're my friends. They're my friends that I spent years with. And in the beginning, I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to go. I did not want to be here anymore at all. I wanted to be with them. And it was frustrating that because I could only talk with them in these little brief moments. So when they come in, it's like a hologram coming in. They're walking and they're interacting within my space. So you see them like you're seeing me right now. They're not, the density isn't there, but they absolutely are walking within my space. So I see them walking within my home. But the more I complained to them, they taught me to love being a human. And I no longer wanted to go anymore. They were constantly reminding me to love where I am at and understand the beauty of this planet. Gaia is so beautiful. You can experience so many, the seas, the rivers, the ocean, the mountains, the desert, the meadow. I mean, it's just so much. And even just the expanse of human emotion that you can experience here, the depth of it. We are such beautiful, creative, emotional beings. It's incredible. This is a playground. So many want to be here, but they also know that they actually really couldn't handle this density. It's hard. This is hard to be here. So congratulate every single one of you guys. You're doing it. But they taught me to love this time, and I really, really have. I was so much spending in 560 up there with them that I spent more time and I came back down into 3D and really was looking around, but I looked at it with renewed eyes. I looked at it as this is my moment. I may not come back here again. This is my moment to love this planet. She's gorgeous. It's so easy in this human dimension to get hyper-focused on your job that you forget to enjoy. When we step back, take that as a cue to regroup, relax this body, replenish this body, fill it with adventure and laughter. I'm telling you what, laughter is what's gotten me through the past 2 years. I mean, it's really kind of the only thing that you can do. And just remember that it's more than just a mission. It's more than just a purpose. We are just here to enjoy and love and experience. I once asked them what we are, and they said, "We are infinite light beings who have chosen to express ourselves as a human incarnate for this specific time of energetic awakening on Gaia." So I'm gonna talk a little bit about blood and how important blood is. I'm just gonna actually talk about this really briefly. So blood matters. The family lines that we choose to come into absolutely matters because you need to be able to hold the light of the being that's coming into it. Blood also matters. We're all hybrids. We're this genetic miracle, essentially, all the 23 races. And a lot of them, some of the abductions they're trying to get the original genome. I had a session with a woman and she said, "It's really odd because I know that I've been taken, but I don't have trauma from it. But I know that I was. And I think that my sister was, but I don't understand why. Like I have some memories of some beings, but there's no trauma. There's no fear there." And they showed me that her and her sister, they didn't get any other siblings, but they had the original genome, is what they said, the original source genome. And a lot of these races, they're trying to undo what we're actually as humans trying to race towards, was transhumanism. A lot of them did that, and they're trying to undo it. And in order to do that, they are abducting a lot of beings they're searching for the original source coding. And so that's what some of these abductions are. They're just looking for that. And that's the reason why blood matters. I've seen some humans, what they're doing at nighttime is they're going up in some of these ships for these beings who stopped reproducing naturally like we do here. And they put everything into these tubes and these pods in order to have children. And they've realized they really messed up, really messed up. And that's part of the reason why they're trying to go backwards. But there are humans here that soul contract at nighttime, they're literally going up and they're holding these babies and they're giving them that motherly love. That's what they're trying to bring back to their children, is that mother connection, that mother love, that frequency that we have that's so special. And what's going on in our society today is really difficult when I've seen the outcome of so many other races. Women are really, really special, what we can do. And that you can't recreate in a pod or tube the connection from a mother to a child. And just a lot of races are trying to get back to that, and they're suffering. They're in a lot of pain. So this is part of the blood wars of what is going on. What we're seeing right now, especially with adrenochrome, that part of blood wars, it's channeled through because, when you understand these beings, like, why are they doing this? I don't even understand. Where does even concept come from to drink blood? And it channeled through a race that is here. somehow they managed to skip when they would pass, they skipped going back to source. They somehow managed to do that. So when they would pass, they would transition and go right back into another body again. So they didn't go back home to recalibrate and heal in that normal reincarnation state. And over time, as they continue to do that, they lost all abilities to have emotions. They're completely emotionless. They have no soul spark at all whatsoever. And I was watching the movie Warm Bodies, and that's, the Romeo and Juliet zombie movie. But in the one scene, it shows a zombie, it was eating someone's brains. And he said the reason why they do is it's because it's the only time that they get to feel emotion. So when he was eating the brains, he was like, he got all that memory and he was able to feel again. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's it. That's why they do the adrenochrome as well. It's the only time that they actually get to feel emotion. So at any rate, the war continues and we're eradicating that. And just know it's not just happening here. This is happening over the entire galaxy. So when we get frustrated that it's not happening soon enough, understand this is happening everywhere. There are slave trades everywhere. And this is a all hands on deck. So this is an absolute war. Okay. So now I'm going to skip that a little bit. That was a little bit heavy, and go into the energy body. Again, kind of just explaining how, when I'm talking with these beings, what it feels like. So this is our electromagnetic field. Every single one of us has this. If you want to know why they did 6 feet apart, this is why. The heart frequency, it goes out to 6 feet. That's the whole reason why they did it. I know you guys already know that. But so when I'm connecting with these beings, I feel them within this energetic field first. And that's the reason why I have no fear. I understand who they are because I'm literally feeling them before I see them. I understand their intention and why they're coming in. And yes, I just need to put this out there. I have very strict boundaries. I don't just talk to anything. I have absolutely done my work. I just need to put that out there. So, because a lot of people are like, you don't know what you're talking to. I always know what I'm talking to. Um, so Thoth came forward to me a couple times, and in healing sessions. But he showed me the Ankh, and he said, "You are a Tesla tower." And he showed that to me. I'm like, "You got to explain that to me more." And he goes, "Well, obviously this symbol was used for a lot of things, but it also symbolizes the power of the human body. And we're all electric, we're energy fields." So he said it literally is shaped. You put your feet together, and this is your connection. Again, we're batteries, so positive, negative. So put your feet together, pull in the energy up from the earth coming in through here. Put the arms out. I can't put this arm out because of the microphone. Put your arms out. And then this is your crown, this auric field up here. So when you're pulling in the energy up and your hands are out, you're connecting with all of this energetic field. You pull it all the way up, gathering that up into your hands, and the hands meet up in the middle. And there you have this energy ball within your two hands together. And then you can pull that down, and then you can put that as an energy field into someone's body. You can help them to heal it. I'm going to talk later. Thoth actually told me about a sound chamber as well, but that's in the next section. So, and this is how we send energy. This is absolutely what it feels like, what it looks like in my hands. If you guys want to do like a fun little exercise, I love doing this. Just put your hands together right here. And just imagine, and imagine you just have this little ball of energy. You can feel it, bouncing it back and forth like a little ball. And you can start really close together if you want to. You can begin to feel that little static going in between. And close your eyes, you can feel it. And it begins to start taking shape in between. Again, like just push it like back and forth, back and forth. And then you can do breathing. Start pulling in from your crown and imagine the energy is going straight down your neck, down your arms, and you're putting in more energy straight out the palms of your hand. And see if you can begin to expand that with each breath. Pushing it out. And this is how we begin to expanding our magnetic field. And you can feel it. You can begin to bounce it. And this is how you can make it grow. So this is a fun game that you can play with yourselves to really feel it. It's tangible evidence that we do have this field all the way around us. So this is just a fun little exercise I like to do with my kids. So I've already answered this. You know how it feels. Does it scare you? No, it never scares. These beings never scare me when I see them. I've seen some pretty interesting beings. Okay, I wanna bring this up because this is part of, like, how does it feel? This is sometimes how I would get this communication. I was actually in my bedroom folding laundry, listening to a Journey to Truth podcast, and, it had ended, and you know how, like, YouTube will just scroll in the next little video and it's just playing? So, again, I'm not paying attention. It was an Ancient Aliens, little snippet, folding laundry, and I noticed I noticed the guy is saying he's showing all these hieroglyphs, and he's showing this picture, and he's talking about these things on their wrists, and he said, "Well, as you can just see, they must have been all part of the same group because they're also wearing the same bracelets." And I just hear this voice, "Wrong." So, I'm like, "Well, then what is it?" He said, "This is a device to help the blood flow in their bodies because they're not from here, and the gravity is so different, so they use these devices." This one in particular, and if you can actually see, there's a little bit of a line that goes down from it, but he said that's what they use to control the blood flow in their bodies because they're used to such a different gravity where they're from, and that controlled how the blood was pushing through their bodies. So you can take that for what you want, but sometimes that is exactly how it is. It's just like they said that and they're just gone. So I continue to fold my laundry. A big thing like within seeing is believing is a lot of the mindset of a lot of people here. But when we flip that to believing is seeing, I'm in a group of women, they're all psychic mediums, and they had actually never heard of any of this or dragons. And so I talked about how I work with dragons and how I use them in my life for protection. I put them on my planes, I put them on my car, bring them protection. And they're like, I never knew that you could do that. I'm like, yeah, just call them in, just call in your dragons. So I said this about a month and a half ago. They actually wrote me 2 weeks ago and said, "Oh my God, I'm seeing dragons." And they're like, "I've been putting them on my car every day. Abby, I didn't know if I should believe you or not, but I've been asking in them and calling them in. I just saw my first dragon today. Oh my God, he was on top of my car." So this is believing is seeing. I think part of the reason why I see so much is because I am such a believer. I've been seeing them since I was a little toddler, but I'm also a super Pisces. Sun, Moon, Mars, and Venus are all Pisces, so I live in that realm. I don't have a skeptic bone in my body. Um, and again, surrender. This was a huge part of my journey in the singing earlier. I had to do deep surrendering and releasing from my ego. Actually, every single session that I say, ego, I lovingly, and I do this. I said, I lovingly ask you to step aside and my higher self come forward now. Our ego it's like a guide. They are there to protect us, but our ego sometimes gets in the way. So when you just surrender, I love this image. Just surrendering into yourself and just going with it and don't question it. And this is my favorite quote. And God said, love your enemy, and I obeyed him and loved myself. So surrender and trust. When you see, this is one of my favorite messages. When you see the beautiful design of life around you, you'll begin to see the beautiful design of you. That is where our connection to source lies. We are not random or placed without purpose. Find the beauty of you and your path, and you'll be led back home to source. Okay, I'm gonna go to soul types. Obviously, there's a lot more than that, but this is just, when I start to see just a common thread. So if this resonates with you, amazing. Restorers. We came here to bring the heavens, what you perceive, to this plane. Gaia had lost its connection, and we wanted to restore its birthright. Gaia had a birthright to beauty, to feed its children with healing. Souls could come here to restore, replenish, and rest. A pit stop between learning lives. This was the original intention of this planet. We are here to bring restoration of original coding onto this plane. So this is just a common theme that I have received over and over again from a number of restorer souls, and that's how they introduce themselves to me. I'm a restorer. Another group is wanderers. You go for exploration, wonderment, and the awe of life. You love to discover the creative spark in races, bless you, what makes their soul spark and how we are all connected. You often wonder how much of this life is for personal soul enjoyment or for others. Yes, and they did laugh. Observers. There's a lot of observers that are here right now. These souls traveled here to observe and record what Gaia is going through and how the human species reacts to it. The eyes and heart are a database. A lot of people are just here living life. A lot of people are like, I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like I don't really know what mission is. And a lot of times they're observers. Like, you're just here to be. And when you sleep at night, you're going back up and you're sharing everything that you're experiencing. You're just recording it. And then this isn't really a soul group, but I had to put this in here because there's so much people that have that Fae energy. Fairy eyes see the magic in life. They see the flow from water to root, see how the breeze can carry a seed to soil and how a song from a bird can heal the heart of a man. Fae can see the purpose behind action. Fae really need their tribes. They're used to everyone being able to just know and read their energy field and thoughts. So this came from Tariq, was Fae that shared this with me. And the reason why I include this is because a lot of people do resonate with that fairy energy, but they get a little frustrated here. Because like people just don't understand, like they're just not here for me the right way. They just don't understand what I'm wanting. And he came through like, because they can't read your thoughts. They can't, I mean, a Fae is so used to everyone having that telepathic, they just feel their energy. They just know instantly, oh, you need a hug, or oh, you need help right now. And that's just not this energy. It's too dense. So Faes struggle a little bit with feeling like they're ever seen or heard. Like people just don't feel me. You need to be more direct. You got to tell people what you're needing. And then the races. These are just some that I have encountered. Arcturians, I've seen two different types of Arcturians. I've seen the really, they're much taller. They have wheat colored skin. Those are the ones that are more observers. They sit on a lot of councils. They're the educators and teachers. The smaller blue skin Arcturians, those are my healers that come in. And I work with the blue light with them. And this is what they said: blue light awakens the latent DNA strands that are in humans, getting rid of the double-stranded, turning them on so that our bodies can start self-healing. This blue light needs to be brought onto this planet. The Arcturian Council has chosen to step up and offer this healing modality to the beings on Gaia. You have always been a race that is destined to join us in the stars. So I was working with, there's just one Arcturian and she's my best friend. And so she comes in and often works with me in sessions. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there was one session and this person who was working on was extremely dear to me, very, very dear to me. And they were having a lot of nerve pain in their body. And so my friend stepped forward and she said, can I blend with you? And I can help regrow the nerves. So because I trusted her energy, I allowed her to fully come in. And when I was looking, first off, Arcturians too, before you can do a healing, it's really important for them. You have to line the body up with their soul stars, what they said. So you have to bring in that frequency and make sure that's aligned right. And the room that they brought me to, it was just a table and it was just all glass, but went all the way up. So you just saw all of the stars there. And so this being was just laying on this table. It was a black table. And you line them up, you're scanning the stars and you're lining them up so that this frequency comes in just right. But anyway, so we're working in, and the whole entire nervous system raised up out of the body, and you could see it and you could see where they needed to grow. And so we went into the brain and she was channeling in, and literally you could see the nerves begin to sprout and grow. Now, as I was doing this, after a few minutes, my higher self stepped in and said, "You're done," to me. "You're done. You can't do, like, you're done." And I'm like, no, I can do more. I can do more. And she literally physically came in and my higher self kicked me out of that blend. And it was only 14 minutes. And the reason why was in order to hold this frequency, to hold the frequency, the Arcturian, and I slept for 20 hours after 14 minutes of doing that. So you do, I mean, and Sadie touched on this, the body has to rotate really, really, the cells have to rotate really, really fast. And I know I sat with like, oh, I talked to them and I talked to them and I talked to dragons. It's work on the body. My one friend, she's a medium and she does some of your readings. She's been in the hospital 3 different times because what it does to the body. So You have to be prepared for it, and you have to really take care of it, and that's why you can't drink alcohol or put bad things in the body because it needs to be fine-tuned and rotate and vibrate enough to be able to reach them. They're coming down for me, but I have to go up to meet them halfway. The Lyrans, I find it interesting, there are so many Lyrans that are here right now. A lot of people think, "Oh, Palladians are the most," but no, Lyrans, and I think it's because where we're moving into, the Lyrans are so creative, and we're gonna be rebuilding and creating a lot of new things, so but the Lyrans are one of the most ancient races. They're portal and, wormhole guardians. So when I was getting my attunement for Reiki, at the master level, this symbol is used in Reiki, and it's the Antakarana. But what was interesting is when the minute I saw that, I flashed, and I actually saw these 2 columns within the Lyran system, and at the top of these 2 columns was this symbol. And what these 2 columns host, this is where a wormhole existed. And I also saw this symbol underneath. There is a mound in Scotland, and this symbol is on a piece of stone, and you go into this, and people used to sit on it, and that is how the body would go and travel. And when you look up onto Karana, if I can do this, it's a Sanskrit term in Eastern philosophy and is the name given to the bridge that connects the lower mind and the higher mind. In this way, it is a communication conduit. So I put that underneath some of my tables and I literally get it spinning. But just let you know, that's a Lyran symbol that was brought here. Dragons, there's angelic realms. I work with them a lot, again with healing, but mainly for protection. And I'll give you two of their names just so you can hear them. These are phonetically put out. Exastilioliathiana, Moxie Theolior Oxana was the second one. And it's so funny because they're giving me these names. In the second one, he's like, well, you can just call me Theo. So often I will get a name and it's so beautiful and they're like, you can just call me Steve. They just like to make it simple. I actually was talking to and I asked him, I said, how do you get your names? Because they always give me these shortened ones, but then I can feel the real name behind it. And I said, how do you get your names? Because you never use them. And he said, well, for us, the names that the name I was given as at the exact moment when you were born, you're given a name. And so that when you say that to somebody else, they know exactly the star alignment of which you were born. And that tells you a bit about their personality type. So a little astrology coming through. He goes, but then we just pick our own names after that. This is one the channel message from a dragon. I see earth, I breathe in air, I speak fire, I walk among the flowing water. I hold within me the center of all elements and move forward in balanced unison. So that's how dragons were sharing with me how we can use the elemental energies within our body in unison. Syrians, one Syrian I worked with, he aided me in my own healing. He aided me with some sessions, but really with my own, and he taught me how to move energy within the body. But the thing that was beautiful was he actually shared with me some of his language, and an animal had crossed. I'm like, they always scare them. I always say hello to everything, but they scatter. And he said, "Well, say bush na na na." To them, and then the na 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 was opening up that exchange of energy. And he said, well, that's also how we greet each other. And he said, but if I know you really well, it's just bushne. That's a hello for a friend greeting. And so he gave me bits of their language. And there was one morning I woke up when you're kind of in between that theta part. And I was laying in bed and I was looking out my window and the sun was rising. And I was just thinking to myself, that's so beautiful. And all of a sudden, he's sitting right next on the ground, leaning up against my bed, and he said, Rasana. And he said, that's what we would call that, Rasana. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, the bringer of life. And I love that because he just sat there with me for about 10 minutes and we watched the sunrise. But then there's one day I was on a run and I kept passing this guy because we were on a loop. And so like the fourth time, I'm like, hey, just to be social. And he went, psst. He gave me that look. And while I'm running, like Syrian was just here. Like we were just kind of have a chat and he went, Dushno. When that guy went by, when he gave me that look, I go, what does that mean? He said, man of poor spirit. Andromedans, I'm just gonna highlight that just very, very briefly. They're very warrior-like. Every Andromedan I've encountered are very, very warrior-like. The Andromedan aspect of myself, she's actually gotten me through the past year. Every time, actually 2 years, every time I've wanted just to collapse and cry and give up, especially when we saw what was going on with the forced injections, and they're doing that with kids at school and masking and everything. I really, really struggled. And there was a couple times where I just sat on the floor and was about ready to give up. And she walked in and she gave me her hand and she said, "Not yet. Keep going." And she literally picked me up with her hand. So, and she shared with me her group, they just go around the cosmos. She said, "We go wherever we are needed." But again, very protectors, warrior-like energy. Aquatic beings, I'm just saying, yes, they absolutely exist. I've encountered a couple of them. There was one time I had a reading, and for 3 days straight, the aquatic being that was attached to my client was in my house, just hanging out. It's really hard to talk with them though, because some of their language can't be interpreted into English. I actually want to talk about language just really, really quick. Some of these beings refuse to translate into English because this English language is a slave language. I'm sorry, but I'm very blunt. That's very true. It is meant to suppress our light and suppress our energy, and some beings just absolutely refuse to translate into it. And for those, then I just speak the language to whoever's with me. But with aquatic beings, I tried once and I just can't, I couldn't reproduce their language. And he's like, "That's all right, you can just give up." But they actually love art, surprising or not. They're extremely creative and love art. One being showed me his planet. It's actually very, very dark planet, but there used to be a civilization there. And where they brought me to were these ruins, and they actually looked very Roman. But they were half collapsed, and they just brought me to their favorite spot. They said, "This is where I come and sit all the time." And so I think a lot of our cultures came from all around the globe. I mean, the galaxy. Crystalline beings started showing up a number of years ago. How they work with me is with the torsion field. They talk a lot about that toroidal field that we grow with inside of us and how we can spin that energy out. And then the crystallines are also working with all of us. All of us are turning over to being more crystalline based versus carbon based. But they bring in a lot of healing, and they're holding a lot of space again with that gray matter I talked about earlier. They've been moving that. The crystal wranglers, I've only encountered one. This is the most fascinating thing, so I wanted to share it today. Barry was showing the crystals yesterday that are in some of the ships. When I saw the picture, oh my God, I've seen that before. Harnessed right in the middle. So I was doing a reading for somebody, and this being showed up, and they were just pacing back and forth, and I could see them, and he was saying, "Well, we're crystal wranglers." I'm like, "What is that?" And so he literally walked straight up to me, and he pulled his sleeve back. He goes, "Look at my skin." And he went like this close up to my eyes. And he was moving it like this. And I could see tiny particles of crystals within his skin. And he said, "We can feel crystals and where they're at all around the galaxy." He said, "Because our bodies are attuned to them." And he goes, "We're also not afraid to go to really far, deep places to gather them." And he goes, "We're called wranglers because certain ships need certain crystals, and we know where to find them." Um, and so he was explaining once they find them, then they bring them in. And because again, wranglers, just like you would bring in like a wild Mustang, these crystals, they help to make the crystal and the ship into this symbiotic relationship because it is consciousness. And so that's one of the things that they do. The next beings I work with, angelics, singing earlier, they came through with the light language. Light language it's just frequency of alignment. And they said, we are light. I mean, we are light. Light is frequency and light is energy. When we speak light language, we are working to bring ourselves and others into proper alignment with their original source code. Though we all come from source, we each resonate in a specific frequency of our home star. Light language adapts and moves and aligns naturally with the frequency needed for each person. And so that's why I asked the angelics, what is light language? And that's what they explained to me. Intuitive sound. So this is obviously, as Tyler said, that's something new he had never heard before. This is what I've been doing for the past year. And it actually began with a Tibetan monk. He started showing up in my healing sessions, and it started with the meridians in the body. And he would say, put your hand here, put your hand there, make this sound. And so it was just ee, or like ee, and I would just these different pitches. And sometimes I would be going into the brain and putting, he would say, put your ring finger on this side and put the other finger down here, hit this note. So that's how it started to come in for me. And then it turned into light language and singing. But that's how, so I call it light acupressure is what that's turned into. But I wanted to show you this bell because I saw it starting to become rumored that those bells were actually healing chambers around the globe. And a lot of people ask, like, where did all the bells go? Because I used to have these huge bells. So I was in a session with somebody, and the top half of their body and the bottom half, they weren't in alignment. They just weren't speaking to each other. And in walks the same monk who'd worked with me. He said, put her in a bell. And this image came in my head. And I'm like, I don't have a bell. And he's just looking, he's just looking at the body. He said, put her in a bell. I don't have a bell. So I worked my hardest in that session trying to recreate the sound of what a bell would. I brought in my tiny little Tibetan metal bowls. But all I'm here today is to say and confirm those absolutely are healing chambers and were used for that. It brings the whole body because it can reach those pitches and that frequency to bring the cells into alignment. And here's the thing, once your cells are in proper alignment, the body can heal itself. That's the only reason, that's the reason why the vibration comes in and the sound comes in. Once you're in a line, the body is a master healer. It knows what to do. We just have to get out of its way, which is ego. Okay, so this is evidence. I started doing some gong training, and they scientifically studied it. This is the blood cells before a gong. As you can see, they're kind of clumpy and they have these little spikes coming off of it. And this is after just 15 minutes of listening to a gong, of what it does to the red blood cells. And just importance in what these sound chambers can do. Again, why is that? Sound creates a magnetic field, and we live in a magnetic electric universe. Magnets give off sound, and this creates a toroidal field. Our own heartbeat creates a torus field. And so I want to say what Thoth showed me with the sound chambers in those pyramids. He showed me a huge sarcophagus, and he said we would put the body laid down inside, and he said, if you notice inside of them, it's very, very slightly concaved. And if you looked, and he brought me in so close, and it almost looked like a vinyl record, like the tiny little lines. And he said, based on what the body was needing, we would set light down one of those chains. So imagine like the little grooves of a record, but it's going all around each four sides of the sarcophagus. And we knew how to send it at such a speed, that light, then it would create a sound. And he said, and then we would put the cover on top of it. And I'm like, they couldn't breathe. What do you mean? He said, it would only take 3 to 5 minutes. There was enough oxygen in there. It was 3 to 5 minutes. And this sound wave would generate a literal electric and magnetic field, and it would bring that body into alignment. And that's what they use some of those sarcophaguses for. So moving into sound and toning, this is what the light beings have been bringing in. Again, as you see all the vowels, when we make sound, we are making and creating our own energetic field. And this, again, is the toning by using different, like, you can create an energetic field just by using those vowel sounds, the different vowel sounds. What are the first sounds that we make when we're born? Or just those vowel sounds, those baby sounds. That's how we communicate. And they're also healing the nervous system in the body. I do this every single day. This gets me grounded and prepared to face my day. And if I'm feeling a lot of energy from others, I do a quick little toning and ground there. The next slide is some of the singing that I've done. This is actually not toning, but I was connecting in with Gaia. She was needing to release something. Oh. Is the sound up? So so with that, I use psychometry, and, I've always said that when I drive by mountains, I can hear them singing. And so the more connected that you become with this space, you realize that a lot of things have a song to them and sound to them. And at this current time, a lot of things are wanting to be released. We put a lot of energy into this ground, a lot of energy into the water. And it, just hearing that and then it being spoken is helping it to release. So that's what that song was about. It was actually ancient Gaia energy. I did not pose for this picture. My daughter took it so that she could send it to my kids and make fun of me. Um, but I put it in here because she texted them like, "Mom's doing weird stuff again." So, but I wanted to bring this up because giants have been talked about. This is outside of Phoenix near the Boulder Resort. Has anyone been to that Boulder Resort outside of Phoenix? So, yes, I'm wearing a dress and I'm wearing heels, but I was so called to go and hike up the side and connect with these. And the minute I put my hand in there, it has such strong feminine energy to the area. And then I just began to connect in with all the giants. So this is absolutely giant country. And it gave me the strong image that this is where the females would go and this is where the children would come and play. I literally saw little children running around these boulders, and those boulders were moved at one point in time in order to bring some form of protection for the females because, again, the kids were there. Take with that what you want. But again, what is psychometry? It's just connecting with an object because everything is stored, and just why I can connect with Gaia and I can feel the energy and make it produce out with sound. Again, I wouldn't be here unless I had come to a place of service and surrender through love and creation. And that's just all that I'm trying to do, and so many of us are here trying to do. When I think of love, this is what it feels like. This is also the web of how all of us are connected. This is the entire reason why I can sit in my house and I can connect with somebody over in Egypt within seconds and understand them and feel them and be able to read for them because everything is connected through that web. Our consciousness is connected through that. And when we push love through that, that's where creation comes from. From my guides, remember the illusions that create, which is life. Remember your ability to create that of what you seek. And I use that a lot for manifestations in my life. Um, and it is so simple. I don't have an overcomplicated presentation, never do, because this is the overwhelming message. It is so simple. We overcomplicate everything, and imagination is creation. Just to wrap up, what is the galactic perspective? Keep peeling back the layers of you. Keep digging inward and keep surrendering to yourself. What I have coming up, I actually have an intuitive vocal toning class if anyone is interested in finding their own voice. I'm going to be doing that next month. And in the fall, I'm going to start a psychic development class, which every single person is psychic. All it is learning how to use this body. I will never call this a meat suit ever again. Ever, ever, ever. This is our greatest machine. It is so beautiful. It's what's carrying our souls. Every ounce of this is a communication antenna. So love these beings. Again, there's the QR code if you're wanting for the class. But so that is it.